What if saving the life of your enemy unlocked a secret hidden since the beginning of time? When a human doctor risks everything to heal a dying alien warrior, their blood bond triggers a transformation that could unite two warring species or destroy them both. This isn't just a story of survival. It's a journey beyond science, beyond war, and deep into the unknown truth of who we really are. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and show your support with a thumbs up by liking the video. Now, let's jump into the story. The hum of the eclipse horizon was steady, peaceful until it wasn't. In an instant, the calm was shattered. Sirens screamed through the ship's halls. Emergency lights bathed the corridors in a red glow, pulsing like a warning heartbeat. Inside the biology lab, Dr. Nara Solon froze, one gloved hand halfway to her microscope. The floor shook under her feet, and from somewhere deep in the vessel came a low rumble that didn't sound like a normal system malfunction. It sounded like war. All crew report to escape stations immediately, the ship's AI blared. This is not a drill. Nara's heart raced. Her hands moved faster than her thoughts, grabbing storage units, snapping lids over samples. She had spent years researching alien immune systems, working toward a breakthrough that could save countless lives. She couldn't leave it behind. Not even when her crewmates were surely already racing for the escape pods. Then the lab doors hissed open. Nara turned, expecting maybe the captain or one of the engineers. Instead, a figure staggered in, massive, injured, and utterly alien. The creature was at least 7 feet tall, its frame wrapped in sleek armor now scorched and cracked. Its skin shimmered in strange tones: gray, green, almost silver. Blood, or what looked like it, spilled from its side, thick and dark like oil. Nara's breath caught in her throat. A Myrian. Of all species in the galaxy, the Myrians were known as the most dangerous. Their warriors were legendary, their empire feared. And this one wasn't just any Myrian, it was wearing the markings of a commander. She should have backed away. She should have run. But the Myrian collapsed to one knee, clutching its ribs. Its breathing was ragged. Its voice came not from its lips, but from a translator device at its throat, crackling and uncertain. Human, it rasped. This ship ... not the enemy. Ambushed. Need ... help. Nara's instincts battled within her fear versus training. Fear told her this being could kill her with a flick of its arm. But her training as a scientist and healer pushed her forward. She stepped closer, lifting her scanner. "I'm Dr. Nara Solon," she said, keeping her voice steady. "I can help you if you let me." The Myrian gave a shallow nod. "Commander Rael Voss, from vessel Obsidian Crest, hit by unknown attackers. Not Earth, not us. Our med bay gone." Her scan confirmed his words. A projectile had pierced his armor, and the toxin inside was rapidly shutting down his immune system. Myrians were famous for healing quickly, but this poison had been designed to counter that. Someone had made it specifically to kill his kind. "I don't have the equipment to treat this," she muttered, frowning at the screen. "Your physiology is too different." "No time," Rael growled, swaying dangerously. "Do what you must, or I die." She glanced at the cryo-storage containers she just sealed. Years of research sat their data, samples, notes on a theory she'd been forming for months. A theory that said Myrian cells might adapt to foreign DNA if introduced under extreme conditions. It was just a theory. Unproven, unethical by most standards. But so was letting someone die when she had a chance to help. Her fingers moved on their own, setting up a transfer device. "This is going to sound insane," she said, rolling up her sleeve. "But my research suggests your cells might be able to adapt to mine temporarily long enough to fight the toxin." Rael's silver eyes widened. "Human blood? Forbiddens. Contamination punishable. And I guess we're both breaking the rules today, Nara said, and slid the needle into her vein. The device filtered her blood, then released it into Rael's system through a second connection. For a moment, nothing happened. Then everything did. His body reacted violently, convulsing as the foreign cells entered. His vitals dropped so fast, her heart nearly stopped. Then, slowly, he began to climb. Rael gasped, his eyes clearing. The wound at his side was closing faster than it should have. His skin shimmered again, new shades dancing across the surface. Most striking, though, were his eyes. The solid silver faded, replaced by pupils that looked eerily human. "It's working," Nara whispered. Rael's voice came again, quieter now. "Strange. I feel not just stronger, different." She checked the readings again. His body wasn't just healing, it was transforming. Not entirely, but subtly, accepting her cells, shaping them, using them. And then suddenly, Nara felt something she couldn't explain. A sensation brushing her thoughts, a presence that wasn't hers. She looked at him. He was already looking at her. And in that silent moment, amid alarms and red lights, and the tremble of a ship under siege, spark passed between them, something new, something impossible. A bond fragile and unknown, born from desperation and blood. And neither of them could begin to guess how far that spark would travel. Asterisk. The lights on the eclipse horizon flickered as another shockwave rippled through the ship. Somewhere nearby, a fire had started. The air was beginning to taste like burnt metal. Nara Solon didn't notice any of that. Her eyes were locked on Rael Voss, the Myrian warrior who just hours ago would have been considered an enemy. Now, he was the patient whose life she had just saved with something no human had ever dared attempt, a blood transfusion between species. Rael lay on the medical bench, still breathing heavily, but each breath came easier than the last. His massive chest rose and fell with a rhythm that suggested strength was returning. But what concerned Nara wasn't just his recovery, it was how his body was reacting. He was changing. At first, it had seemed like simple healing. The wound on his side closed rapidly, even faster than known Myrian regeneration. But then she noticed the differences. His skin, once matte and slate-colored, now had a faint shimmer where the transfusion had spread. And his eyes, those cold silver pools, had changed again. Now they had distinct pupils, shaped like a human's, and they followed her with a level of emotion she hadn't seen before. "You're not just healing," she murmured, checking the scanner again. "You're adapting." Rael turned his head toward her. "I feel strange, clearer, like something's opened inside me." Before Nara could respond, she heard it, a whisper in the back of her mind. Faint, unfamiliar, but undeniably there. Her hand froze over the scanner. She took a step back, heart thudding. "Did you just say something?" she asked. "I didn't." "Speak," Rael replied, his brow furrowing. But Nara had heard a voice. It had sounded like Rael, but not through his translator. It was as if a thought had drifted across her mind, shaped in a voice that wasn't her own. She swallowed hard, trying to stay calm. This wasn't just about blood anymore. "I think something else is happening," she said quietly. "I think we're connected somehow." Rael sat up slowly, surprising her with his balance. He no longer looked like he was dying. In fact, he looked stronger than before. "Your blood, it did more than keep me alive. It's changing me." The room shook again, more violently this time. A cabinet crashed to the floor, scattering vials and instruments. Outside the lab, emergency alerts continued to howl. Rael's head tilted. "We're being boarded." Nara snapped into action. "We have to get you out of here. If the others find out what we did, what's happening to you, they'll see." It is a threat. I can call my ship, Rail said, rising to his feet. He was still taller than she was by 2 heads, but something in his presence had softened. He didn't feel like a stranger anymore. He touched the communicator on his chest. This is Commander Rail Voss. Extract now. 2 life forms. 2? Nara echoed. You're coming with me, Rail replied, his voice firm. You saved me, and something is happening to both of us. We need answers. A shimmering field of light formed around them. Nara barely had time to grab her data drive before the world vanished in a flash. Moments later, she stood on the cold, dim deck of a Myrian warship. The bridge was massive, filled with armored figures who turned in unison the moment they saw her. Silence fell. The air was thick with tension. Then someone spoke, voice laced with disgust. You brought a human aboard? Rail stepped in front of her. This human saved my life. She is now under my protection. Murmurs rose. Nara could feel their eyes on her sharp, suspicious, afraid. But that wasn't all she felt. Something else was rising inside her. A sense of awareness beyond her own. Her thoughts weren't alone in her head. And the more she looked at Rail, the more she could feel his emotions: confusion, gratitude, curiosity. Maybe even something more. Later, in the ship's medical bay, Nara ran tests on both of them. What she saw confirmed her fears and ignited her wonder. Rail's cells weren't just surviving with human blood. They were thriving. New proteins had formed, bridging gaps between species. Genetic markers had begun to align. But it was one-sided. Rail was changing. She WSN single quotes T ... She was. The whispers were louder now. Her dreams were no longer just hers. She could feel Rail's thoughts like echoes across water. This shouldn't be possible, she said aloud, shaking her head at the screen. Rail watched her with his now very human eyes. And yet it is. We are linked, Nara. She looked up sharply. He hadn't spoken. Not out loud, but she'd heard it clear as her own voice inside her mind. They stood in silence for a long moment. The ship's engines hummed softly beneath them. Somewhere far behind, the eclipse horizon was in ruins. Her life had changed in hours, her work, her future, her very understanding of the universe. Now she was standing on a warship, full of aliens who didn't trust her, bonded to a creature she barely knew, and carrying research that could rewrite biology as they knew it. Nara didn't know what tomorrow held, but she knew she wouldn't be facing it alone. The Myrian ship sped through space, far beyond the familiar stars of either the human or Myrian territories. Dr. Nara Solon stood by the wide observation window, staring out at the strange light swirling ahead. It was beautiful and terrifying, an ever-moving cloud of glowing mist, stretching across the void like a living storm. The crew called it the Salara Mist. It was unexplored, uncharted, and considered a death trap. Most ships never returned from it, but Rail Voss had chosen to go there anyway, trusting something neither of them fully understood. Nara could feel the storm pulling at her, mind like a whisper in a language she didn't know but somehow recognized. The connection between her and Rail had only grown stronger. She could sense his presence before he entered a room, feel his thoughts as if they passed through her like wind. It should have scared her, but it didn't. It felt like discovering a part of herself that had always been missing. "You're sure about this?" she asked as Rail entered the room. "No," he admitted. "But something calls us here. You feel it too?" Nara nodded. She did feel it, a constant hum at the edge of her awareness, guiding her deeper into the mist. They weren't running anymore. They were searching for answers, for purpose, maybe even for the origin of what had started between them. The Salara Mist swallowed the ship in seconds. Outside, the view turned into a storm of color lightning, without sound, swirling patterns. Of gas and radiation, the ship's sensors went haywire. Lights dimmed. Systems blinked off and back on. The crew panicked, but Rail's voice steadied them. Then, just when it seemed the ship might tear itself apart, everything went still. A calm space opened in the center of the storm, like the eye of a hurricane. At its heart floated a structure. That couldn't be real. It looked like it was made of glass and light, spinning slowly with impossible shapes and angles. It had no clear walls, no clear edges, but shimmered with a kind of intelligence that made Nara's skin prickle. She felt it before she saw it. This was what had been calling them. Rail touched the ship's controls, but they moved without his input. The ship drifted forward, guided by an unseen force. Nara and Rail stood side by side on the bridge as the light from the structure surrounded the ship. Everyone watched in silence. Then, suddenly, every screen on the ship lit up with strange symbols, glowing shapes, and shifting lines that moved like living writing. And just as suddenly, Nara understood them. Welcome, the words echoed inside her mind. Not spoken, not even translated. Just understood. Rail flinched. You heard it too. Yes, she said, merely whispering. They're in our minds. A wave of warmth moved through the ship. Fear gave way to curiosity. Awe, the voice or presence or whatever it was spoke again. You have done what we once believed impossible. Who are you? Nara asked, not aloud, but in thought. Still, the presence answered. We are the architects, it said. We seeded life in this part of the galaxy. You and the one beside you come from the same design. Rail looked stunned. You created humans? And Marians? We guided the early patterns, the architects replied. Your two species were meant to grow apart, different strengths, different wisdoms, but always meant to return together. Nara felt her heart pound. But why us? Why now? Because you acted with compassion, the voice said. You gave your blood freely. You broke the rules of fear and war. You created something new, a bond we did not build, but hoped might someday form. Rail stepped forward. But it's not just a bond, he said. I'm changing. My body, my mind. I'm not just Myrian anymore. Yes, the architects confirmed. And the human beside you is changing too. Not physically, but her awareness has grown. You are the first of a new connection. A bridge. Nara thought of the voice she had heard in her head. The way Rail could sense her emotions. The way she had instinctively known how to steer the ship through the mist, despite never having touched Myrian controls before. You're saying, we're evolving? You are returning, the architects said, to what your species were meant to become together. A pause followed. Then the structure glowed brighter, and a beam of light shot into the ship. Energy surged through the systems, stabilizing the engines and repairing damage that no engineer could have fixed. It felt like a gift. Then came the warning. Those who fear unity are hunting you. They are called the Oryx Veil. They work from the shadows. They picture people against each other to stop what you've begun. They will not stop. Rail turned to Nara. We have to go back. Nara nodded. We have to tell them the truth. They architects pulsed one final time. Go, carry the message. But be warned, knowledge brings danger. You are not only the first, you may be the only. The light faded. The ship turned away from the heart of the mist. As they left, Nara could feel the connection inside her deepening. The storm behind them was still wild, still dangerous, but something inside her had changed. She was no longer afraid. Asterisk. The stars outside the ship blinked quietly as the Myrian vessel moved out of the Shalara mist. Behind them lay the ancient structure of the architects, hidden within a storm of cosmic light. Ahead of them, trouble was waiting. Dr. Nara Solon stood beside Rail Voss on the command deck, watching as the sensors picked up 3 ships directly in their path, 2 Myrian war cruisers and 1 Human Alliance destroyer. All 3 were armed, and all were closing fast. "They're working together," Nara said, her voice quiet but steady. Rail nodded. "Which means they see us as the same threat." The irony wasn't lost on either of them. 2 governments that had spent decades on the edge of war were now united for the wrong reason. They both feared what Nara and Rail had become. Or maybe it wasn't fear of them, but of what they represented. Connection, understanding, change. And behind all of it, pulling strings from the shadows, was the Oryx Veil. The first message came from the human ship. "Dr. Nara Solon, this is Admiral Yalan Price. You are to surrender immediately for decontamination and observation. You have been exposed to an alien biological agent that may compromise Earth's safety." The second message followed. Commander Rail Voss, a Myrian officer, said coldly, "By order of the High Conclave, you are to return to face judgment for genetic violation and collaboration with an enemy." Both voices had the same tone, polite, professional, but full of fear. Nara and Rail exchanged a glance. No words were needed. Their connection had grown so deep now that they could feel each other's thoughts as clearly as their own. "They won't listen," Rail said. "They don't want to understand?" "Then we show them," Nara replied. Rail gave the order to open a broadcast channel to all 3 ships. Together, he and Nara stepped forward to speak. "This is not contamination," Nara began. "This is connection. I gave Rail my blood to save his life, and something incredible happened. Our bodies, our minds linked in a way no one believed was possible. We are not becoming something dangerous. We are becoming something better," Rail continued, his voice firm. "Our people were always meant to complement each other. That's what the architects showed us. We were created to follow different paths, but those paths were meant to meet." Nara stepped closer to the screen. "You fear us because we've changed. But what if change is what we need? What if everything we've fought over for years was built on lies?" There was silence on the other end. But then, without warning, one of the Myrian cruisers fired. The energy blast rushed toward them, bright and violent. Nara gasped, but Rail didn't move. Just before the impact, a glowing barrier snapped into place around their ship. The blast vanished like a raindrop on glass. "The architects," Rail said. "They're protecting us." Or maybe it wasn't just them anymore. Maybe it was the bond between them, grown strong enough to awaken the power the architects had left behind. They didn't know for sure, but they knew what to do next. Nara reached out with her mind, connecting with Rail's. Together, they focused not on fighting, but on sharing. They sent a wave of information through the broadcast channel. Data, images, proof of the Solara, mist and the structure within it. The scans of Rail's changing DNA, the recordings of the architect's words. At first, there was only silence. Then voices came through, soft, uncertain. Not from the commanders, but from crew members on the other ships. "I see it. She's telling the truth. He doesn't look like a normal Myrian. Look at his eyes. What if we've been lied to?" The seeds of doubt were planting themselves. And that was enough. "We're leaving," Rail said, stepping back from the console. "We won't surrender, but we'll give you time. In 3 cycles, we'll return with more proof if you're willing to listen." The Myrian captain shouted something in protest, but his voice was drowned out as Rail closed the channel. The ship turned away and disappeared back into the depths of space that 3 months passed in silence. On board the ship, now called the Unity Flame, Nara and Rail worked side by side, learning more from the architect technology. They helped volunteers from Rail's crew go through the same process he had, slowly transforming through careful exposure. To human genes, the results were astonishing. Emotional range, clearer thinking, stronger intuition. It wasn't just evolution. It was expansion. And Nara had changed too. While her body remained human, her mind had grown sharper. She understood languages she'd never studied. She felt things she couldn't explain. Rael called her the key, though she didn't feel important. She just felt lucky that compassion had led her to someone who was supposed to be her enemy. When the day came to return, they were ready. The joint fleet that awaited them looked different now. Ships flew in patterns that didn't suggest attack, but welcome. On the main screen appeared a face Nara hadn't seen in years: her brother, Elias, an Earth Alliance envoy. And beside him stood a Myrian diplomat. "Welcome back," Elias said softly. "We're ready to listen." As the Unity flame moved forward, Nara reached for Rael's hand. His larger, scaled fingers wrapped around hers. No words passed between them. They didn't need them. One spark had started all of this. A spark born from one simple act: kindness. And from that, a future was being written. Not of war, not of fear, but of unity. A future made by choice, by courage, and by the quiet power of connection.